Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome inside the Hockey Hub. Sophia and Kasey here with you. Lots of news, but we're starting with the Geek Squad. Morgan Geekie last night on the couch eating ice cream, guys. I saw the tweet, saw the email. 6 more years of the Geek Squad. Okay, I thought we would come back on camera, but we'll just stay here. Kasey, this photo of Morgan, he looks like a friggin' superhero, like Fast and the Furious. He looks great.
He looks amazing.
Yeah, he looks like he is about to go, like,
muck things up.
Who's the guy I'm thinking of from, oh my God, from Snatch? That actor. Anyway, I don't know. I'll get it in a second. Say them.
Yeah, there we go.
Looks really good there. Morgan Geekie, 6 more years. Biggest news right now coming out of the Bruins world, but lots of signings actually happened in the last 48, 24 hours. So we're going to go over that. But Morgan Geekie, the biggest news. And then, of course, tomorrow, guys, July 1st, free agency. Just as a reminder, we are going to have a show live at 8 o'clock with Brick and Razor, and Adam's going to be at Warrior, and we're going to be giving you all the goods. But for now, we've got some news to start with, Kasey, and that's all the signings. I can go over the list. Michael DiPietro, Henri Jokiharju, Marat Khusnutdinov, John Beecher, Michael Callahan. Those were the names, but let's start with Morgan Geekie. Kasey, I know you're kind of new to Boston, so first impressions of this, I'll give you my take, but I want to hear from you. What do you make of this deal?
I think that it's a great deal. I think fans are super happy because if there's one thing I saw the most commentary-wise when the season ended as short as it did was sign Geeks right away.
Yeah.
And at least I had a chance to cover his brother for a little bit over in Tampa Bay and hear a lot about this family dynamic, humble family, all in when it comes to hockey and the grind. But more importantly, you're getting a great guy. You're getting humility. You're getting somebody whose trajectory just keeps shooting up at a great price. He wants to be here, and I can't wait to see what his next step tends to be because whether it's first line with Pasta or a second line driver, I think Boston really kind of loaded up on anchoring him into the right place at the right time.
Yeah, and I want to play both sides of the card. People who love him because of, like you said, his character is huge. And then the only criticism, and not that it's criticism, but some people were saying like, yeah, but he was playing with Pasta the whole time.
Right.
Yeah, okay, fine. But he took advantage of that. And there have been a lot of guys over the years, at least the 6 that I've been, that have gotten to play with David Pastrnak and didn't perform as well as Morgan Geekie did when Bruce Cassidy, when Jim Montgomery was doing some line shuffling. So I'm going to just like move that argument out of the way. Yes, of course, we'll see how we have to do. But when you talk about character, that is something that the Bruins are focusing on this season with this whole culture, making sure we keep it, we don't lose it, the whole rebuild, retool, everything like that. David Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy have been thrown around for captaincy. We know that. Marco Sturm, newest head coach, has come in and said, I don't know these guys. I know what I've heard, but I would like to get to know this team before we decide which direction we're going. I'm going to say this with all due respect to the resume and to the experience that Pastrnak and McAvoy have. I'm not taking anything away from them being an option. And it's kind of crazy to say that Morgan Geekie could be that guy, and I'm not throwing that out there. But I'm saying he has the qualities.
He fits the bill.
He fits the bill of maybe not for this team and maybe not the next one, but he absolutely has the qualities as a person, as a speaker with the media, as a speaker in the room, as a leader, and as a work ethic guy, like the work ethic he puts in, and then obviously the points production we've seen in the last year. We've got to see it long term, but it's there. So alternate for sure. I asked him last year, late in the year, have you ever worn the A? He hasn't with the Boston Bruins. That would be a big honor for him. I will not be surprised if he gets the A they're going to have a couple, right, if they don't have a captain. But if he gets one of the A's, and well deserved. And by the way, the price point here, I think we were just talking about it with Adam Pellerin in the office, but very fair for both sides. 5.5, 6 years, right? Is that right? 6 years, yeah, 6 years, 5.5. I think super fair for Morgan Geekie and super fair for the Boston Bruins. What do you make of the terms, Kasey?
The terms I thought were fantastic, and I mentioned it on chat. I think that going back to the humility and the character of this player, Geekie wasn't looking for anything ridiculous, realistically. I think he understands the positioning of the Bruins right now and can kind of see the vision of where this team can go, and it kind of piggybacks off of how well they just drafted. Whether you love the picks or not, the potential is very much there. So I think that it's great terms for a guy like Geekie, and I was a big fan of his in Seattle. He was a key piece and orchestrator to Seattle Kraken having this wild postseason appearance 2 years ago, and then comes here and just kind of continues to pick up on the hype. So seeing how he's just continued to hone in on his game. And honestly, I love that you point out the pasta fact. I want to look at you so bad. I feel like I'm in timeout.
I know, I was going to say, it's so hard. It's like we're sitting beside each other, guys, but we got to look ahead because the cameras are here.
We're the kids that got separated in class because we couldn't stop talking. There you go.
Wait, no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Can't even reach each other.
We can't even high five.
All right. But to your deal with pasta, like people kind of being like, oh, well, you played with him. There was a point where their chemistry kind of started to fall off a little bit, top of 2025, and you saw them have to kind of redistribute the scoring, and Morgan Geekie still had a tendency to step up in that facet, not to mention high danger chances are the biggest thing that players were kind of going toe-to-toe with goalies on this season. He sat fourth on the Boston Bruins for that, and that was behind a Brad Marchand that ended up leaving, and key pieces that ended up getting traded off the board. So with or without Pasta, we saw big steps in Morgan Geekie's game, and I think that deserves all the praise.
Yeah, 100%. And just to throw out the stats out there, 77 games playing, 57 points, 33 goals. And I love that, what you mentioned, that even when he wasn't playing with Pasta, the production, the momentum, everything kind of stayed intact. Of course, it's a 6-year deal. We'll see. Will he have ups and downs? Maybe. But just from what we know from him as a person, guys, I don't think that the work ethic or the seriousness is going to slide. And I also say this, like, I think NHLers, to me, and I've worked in many leagues, are the most honest and the best athletes to work with. That's a bias for sure that I have. And so I'm not suggesting that other players who have signed before have had that, but it's also human nature when you're like, okay, great, 6 years, I can relax a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. When you're in a contract year, oh, maybe I can relax a little bit. But I just don't see that happen to Morgan Geekie. Also, we're talking about work ethic, and we were talking about, like I said, leadership with him. With the media, he's absolutely fantastic. So maybe there's a little bit of a bias there. But just like really honest, really good answers, and I really see him being a leader in the future with this team. And to your point about how he got the contract done, as soon as that was signed, they knew how much money they had left, and like all these other contracts started pouring in, right? So Morgan Geekie did that, and he and his agent, maybe they could have gone longer, maybe he could have held out for more, but he wants this for the team. And we haven't heard from him yet, so we'll probably ask him how that process was. But knows that like once his contract, which is one of the biggest ones that they were just trying to figure out in this offseason, is done, then the rest of the team can come together, and that speaks to his character too.
Yeah, and I love the point out of like him potentially, I think he deserves an A. I mean, of course I've watched it from the sidelines, but his answers, and you see and learn a lot about a player when the season is not going your way. In a very tough market against a very tough fan base, and like, you know, he still had a way and eloquency of explaining what's going on, what their goals and objectives were going to be, regardless of the results of the games. And he fits the bill, the hockey bill, as you know, of not getting too high, not getting too low, but still being very clear and concise to like what's going on. So I loved that perspective, and just being able to hear Geekie talk on any matter that was going on with the Bruins this previous season.
Okay, I'm going to give you your choice. Are we done with Geekie for a while?
We're done.
We're done for now. Well, I'm sure we're going to hear from him. We're going to get some news, hear from Sweens. But for now, I'm going to name the other signings, and then I'll let you have your pick of where you want to go.
Ooh,
okay?
Okay.
So Michael DiPietro, 2-year, 800,000 around, just over that. Henri Jokiharju, defenseman, 3-year, $3 million annual average. Marat Khusnutdinov, 2-year, just under $1 million annual average, $925,000. John Beecher, 1 year, $900,000. Michael Callahan, 1 year, two-way contract, $775,000 annual average. Who do you want to talk about there?
Jokiharju.
Okay,
I was really hoping for this to happen. We heard some whispers, and then, of course, the lock-in was very exciting. Most people started to really talk about Jokiharju after seeing his performance with Finland in Four Nations. And you're talking about a Finland team that was not projected to do much, but defensively, a lot of their effort, a lot of their efficiency became louder because of what Jokiharju did. I look back to what he did with the Buffalo Sabres. I look to the key assist that he picked up on a JJ Peterka's goals. I also look at just the composure that he has as a defenseman, and he's not a left-handed defenseman, thank God. We are loaded up on left-handed defensemen here in Boston, so to know that you can lock in a right that's young, that has so much potential, that dude dances on the blue line. He's really good at keeping plays in front of him, and I've bragged about it a lot. But we started to see some really great chemistry kind of branch out with him, with some of the younger guys and some of the veterans. So the fact that he just has so much composure and smarts to him, no matter who's playing in front of him, I thought that was really cool that he had the ability to stay in Boston.
Yeah, I love all that read and, like you said, right shot, which is really important.
Those guys are like a dime a dozen. You can't find right shot defensemen anymore. It's weird.
I know. We've got a lot of guys playing on their offside and shuffling things around. But I also like the terms of the deal. 3 years at 3 annual average. I think that's super fair as well. Doesn't eat up too much, but the 3 years is nice. Gives him a chance to breathe a little bit, see how he fits in. And then it's not too long term for the Bruins if they decide to go in another direction, because as you said, spent some time with Buffalo, coming from there, and just 18 games with the Boston Bruins last season and 4 points, 4 of those assists. So Jokiharju, great. Shall we move on? Or do you want to move on to anyone else, or should I send it?
I think Khusnutdinov's a good one to point out too. A lot of hype around him in Minnesota. People were wondering like how it was going to translate here, and I think the buzz around him just kind of jumped off the page. I feel like you, Brick, and Judd talked about it quite a bit towards the end of the season, just kind of how he had such a motor on him. And so for him to be 22, maybe finally turning 23, the age bracket, and like him being able to grow in this system, I think is going to be really cool. We saw him at center, we saw him at winger, we saw a guy who can kind of come in and do a number of things that's asked about him. And that seems to be the new theme with Boston as a whole. We talk about it with the Sox a lot, but with Boston, you want a couple guys that'll just fit into any role that you need at that moment, and Khusnutdinov kind of is in that.
Yeah, so just from the personal perspective, the person side, he had a really hard time with English, and that's okay. Like, that is such a hard transition. You're learning a city, you're learning a game, you're learning a new language. And Zadorov, Nikita Zadorov, really took him under his wing and, you know, kind of let him store his, he said, like, he let me store my stuff because I didn't have a place, you know, let me store my stuff at his house, and is making him go to dinner, like making sure knows he's invited to dinner, not only invited, but almost like a requirement, like, you're part of this team, come, like, sit with me. Well, I'll help you with the English part, but that's been really nice to see. We know they have Zadorov locked up, so who is also the team is hoping is going to help transition to that leadership group and role.
Will.
Yeah,
yeah, I think he will.
Go off, pop off. Go ahead. We have time. This is the whole. That's what the podcast is. Tell us what you think.
Because I think that he's got really good eye in terms of like having a different leadership perspective, and you can just tell that his presence kind of inspires. I mean, Mason Lohrei talked about it with us last week, but from a different perspective, I have a friend whose husband played with him in Colorado and just said from a young age he has the ability to kind of step into a situation, have a different perspective on it, level things off, and kind of communicate it well. And I mean, he has a Russian background as well, so to not be natively an English speaker and to be able to carry such a presence, I think that that's something to think highly regard of. And I think we saw some of his leadership tendencies surface during the end of the season.
I'll tell you, he's definitely honest with the media.
You gotta love a blunt one,
yeah,
though.
Yeah, he's a blunt for sure. And then you ask him a question that he's not into, and he's like, pardon? I'll call you out. Whereas, like, some of these guys will work around it, they'll work with you, and he's like, no.
I gotta ask you, Sophia, do you prefer a blunt answer, or like, are you okay with the hockey answer?
No, I much prefer the non-hockey answers, like not the non-typical ones, because sometimes, and I did a little stint with the guys that never made it to air, because I don't know what I did. Like, I didn't finish, but I started by doing, like, putting them on the spot and asking them, like, what's your most like cliche answer? Like, go.
I love that.
And so I'm gonna try that again this year, and then I want to like chop it up and put them all together. And so we did. You know what it was? It was during COVID, and we both had to wear masks. And I was like, I don't feel like airing this. Like, it didn't age well.
And trying to do all these things.
Yeah. Like, you want the facial expressions, you want them. So. The cliche answers, and we were kind of going over how easy it is for them just to like get in there. But to their credit, first of all, the scrums, or not the, well, scrums, yes, but the walk-off interviews, which are the interviews in between periods, those are very hard to do if you're a player. And I used to be not annoyed, but when I'd watch, I was like, they're kind of like cookie cutter. But now when I've been doing them, like, they're not the easiest, like, they're not thinking about speaking in front of like a television. First of all, they're not trained to do that. They're not professionals. Some of them are just coming off the ice, like out of breath. Some of them need to go into the locker room because they're going to go over stuff and they're holding up the meeting because like they're talking to us.
Their underwear.
Yeah, like stuff's going on. So they're not the easiest to do. So they joke about how sometimes they try their best. Like some of the guys have told me, like, we're trying our best, but they're like, sometimes I don't even know what you're asking because I'm like thinking about the game. I'm thinking about what I just did in that shift. I'm thinking about us being down 2-0, whatever. What was your question? I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
No, you answered it. It was like, do you prefer the hockey answer or like the blunt answer? Because sometimes the blunt answer can be jarring, but I too would just prefer that versus like if I hear the same old thing over and over again, I'm like, dude, you didn't even register what I said. But to your point, like they've got so many other things going on. It's funny, Ross Colton used to be my cookie cutter interview all the time. There was one time I was like, Ross, can you answer this and do not say anything about pucks deep? And he just started dying laughing. And he's like, I'm sorry, it's the go-to because it's part of my task. And like, I'm hearing bits and pieces of what you're saying.
Yeah, they're thinking about other things. But yes, sorry, to answer your question, love the blunt answers. Keeps you on your toes as a reporter too, and makes you think a little harder because you know if the player disagrees or if he doesn't like the question, and that's okay, sometimes they don't, that they're going to give it to you, and you've got to be prepared for that. So definitely like that. But wanted to throw that in there from Marat Khusnutdinov. I think we got to go to break, but I want to talk about one more thing. Michael DiPietro, 2 years.
Yes.
Like I said, 8-12. I can't read numbers. I don't even know how to read. Like once it's more than 4 digits, I'm like, I don't know what it is.
I had to translate pounds the other day, and I just handed the paper over. So.
I can't do it. It's 8-12, 500, whatever that is, annual average, okay? But goaltender, so this is unique position, signing him for a 2-year deal. So just above league min over here, but what does that mean?
Well,
the goalie
it's
situation.
Weird because they were kind of shopping him beforehand. Reports were coming out that a number of teams were highly interested in him, and so like.
So could he be a trade piece? Is what you're saying?
That's where I'm leaning towards. Like maybe there's a trade bargain in the mix there, or they trust him to back up Swayman and they try to use Korpisalo as a big trade piece. I know that he's got a lot of stout on his contract, but considering how the goalie market has looked, and there's a number of teams that don't trust their first or second goaltender, that you could shop a Korpisalo and probably get a decent package in return. But I did find that fascinating as a whole. Yeah,
so exactly. Is he going to be the backup? And then they're shopping Corpy. Is Corpy going to be the backup? Or 1A, 1B, but more of the backup, I guess. This is Swayman's role. And is DiPietro they're getting him under contract just to shop him around? I don't know, but we are going to find things out in the next 24, 48 hours. For now, guys, we're going to send it to break. But of course, as you know, it's a big weekend, the draft, the NHL draft, the Bruins 7 picks. James Hagens in the first round, going 7th overall. We're going to discuss that and more after this.
My name is Happy Gilmore. How are you? Proud to be part of the 2025 NHL Draft. The Boston Bruins select from Boston College James Hagens. Way to go, homie!
Oh, man, that was, a highlight for James, that's for sure. And something we've been playing on the airwaves. It's been circulating, and for good reason. We're going to talk about that, but just quick, James Hagens, 7th overall, 7th pick in the draft, going to BC and going to the Boston Bruins, hopefully, eventually. But the whole Adam Sandler thing, I loved it. Who didn't?
Still trying to look at you.
Yeah.
Did you get the follow? Was Razor able to help you solidify?
Oh, my God. No, so what I said, I think it was Gary Bettman who said, was it? I don't know. He's like, one of the biggest Bruins fans out there. Adam Sandler. And I was like, if he's the biggest Bruins fan, why isn't he following us on
he's a
Instagram?
real one.
Let's go. Do you not watch? Hello, I'm your host. Hi.
Right. If he's a real one,
I'm here.
Nesson and Sophia. I need to see it on the follow.
We're going to get there. Don't worry. I will find a way to get that done. Maybe when he does this press tour or something like that. Or should I just keep DMing him or bothering him? I don't know.
Don't the kids these days do the slide up, like you heart stories?
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
Hit him with the slide up.
I don't know what to do, but we'll figure it out. Maybe James can get me a follow from Adam Sandler. My question to you, I was thinking about this. Obviously, the teams don't know who they're picking depending on how it's going. So I'm like, where was he? Was this happening live, or you guys said you think he recorded 20 names?
I feel like he did the 20 name recording.
That's annoying.
It is super annoying.
That's annoying.
Time is money. I can't imagine what else Adam Sandler's running around doing.
He's not sitting around on Friday night being like, okay, guys, I'm in front of this yellow screen and I'm gonna go when you're ready, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Imagine they played the wrong sound.
Oh my gosh. Well, considering how that draft house stuff was going down, wasn't a fan of it. But that's the other reason why I don't know if it was live, because it feels like there was too many things being tested out for the first time. Adam Sandler would have been here forever.
Yeah.
Imagine if we traded the pick. At least we could put that conversation to bed finally, right?
Okay, yeah. So I guess if they traded the pick, then they probably would have canceled the Adam Sandler intro.
I would hope.
I don't know. I don't
Depends
know
on
that
how
worked.
up to the gun it was.
But it worked out well. It worked out well for that presentation and how that went. Wait, I had one more question about Adam Sandler, and I totally forgot what it was, but it doesn't matter because we're just going to talk. I'll think of it somewhere. I'm trying to stall over here. We'll come back to it. No, but that being such a big deal for James Hagens and, you know, him saying, like, what are the chances? There are a lot of good movies out there. He's a young kid, not for nothing. The original Happy Gilmore was a long time ago, and I love that that's his favorite movie, and that would have been just, like, such a sweet moment for him, which he said it obviously was.
Yeah.
Casey, I'm not going to pretend here that I know a lot about James Hagens other than what I've read, right? I'm not going to be here. I'm not a scout. I'm not an NHL scout, but we've got to read a lot. I'm going to meet him this week at development camp.
Yep.
He was supposed to report today, but there have been some travel delays. You saw that on Twitter? Yep. Okay, so some travel delays, so he won't be at camp today, but we're going to get to know him. But from what you've read, from what you know, what do you make of this pick for the Boston Bruins?
I was actually excited. I didn't talk about him much because there was 2 other guys highly on my radar for this, but I will say this. I spent my Valentine's Day with my best friend, her husband, and our other best friend. They came up to Boston for the Four Nations tournament.
Yeah.
And on Valentine's Day, UMass was playing BC, and that's the only place that my best friends wanted to be was to go watch a BC game. So we actually went. Hagens picked up an assist in the third quarter on that one, and after the game, him and his brother Michael, with the utmost patience, signed everything that came at them, stood for picture after picture after picture. I'm talking like it felt like well over an hour after the game. Just the best sportsmanship and just really, really nice kids for one, or I don't want to call them kids, nice guys. But what I will say is that I'm excited to see what his potential is in terms of timing fitting in with the Bruins and all the highlight films that we have seen since he got drafted, and even beforehand, if you watch his career at BC, the kid's an absolute slot machine. And being able to register goals from the slot has become a big theme for any team to find success. That was how the Blues kept it interesting versus the Jets and just completely putting Connor Hellebuyck on his toes and really making him work for it. So a lot of things to be excited about when it comes to Hagens, but more so the character. I mean, my best friend's sons now have signed merch by James Hagens that they will be so excited to wear as they get older.
Why? I want to ask a hockey question, but first I want to ask, why is that the only place they wanted to be? Did they go there?
No. So my best friend's husband is big on hockey. He's from Pittsburgh, and for some reason, he's just more dialed into college hockey than anything else. And so Boston College, because of their production of NHLers as well as BU, he just kind of gravitated towards that years ago and stuck with it. So the boys have had Boston College hockey merch since they came out of the womb. 2 out of the 3 boys that my best friend has know that they want to go to Boston College. The third one, not speaking so much yet, but I'm sure he'll jump on board as well soon.
Okay, I love that. I love that you guys went to a college hockey game, and I love that even though not from here, that's got the lore and the reputation.
It's loud.
Yeah, and like that's something that James Hagens were saying, like they see the facilities, they know the reputation. Like he wanted to be in Boston for college, and then he's like, I wanted to come back, or I guess stay, but I wanted to come back. So this is, such a win-win for him. And then the joke, of course, 6 guys that potentially could end up with the Boston Bruins playing in BC for the Eagles. So people calling them the Boston Bruins Eagles, blah, blah, blah.
Bruins College.
Yeah, Bruins College or whatever it is. It's just working out that way. I know that the scouts and Don Sweeey and management, they're not like drafting just because of that, but it is helpful. We had Brick and Razor on. It is helpful to not be so far away, to be able to bring guys up without traveling them. So the joke, here we go. Just found the new logo for Boston College next season. And there you go. We got the eagle there on the Boston Bruins. Boston Bruins crest. Hold on. Producer Brendan just said something. Say it again because I didn't catch it.
Hagens has landed.
Oh. He is at development camp. Okay, just kidding about the travel. He will be there. So great. I think we're going to talk to him today, but at some point this week, I'll definitely get some more information on these guys. Are we playing sound? I think we get to hear from James Hagens at some point. I'm asking that actually to the producer. Yes, we are. Okay, great. We're going to toss to James Hagens. I'm going to gather my thoughts. Let's hear from him after the draft.
Hey, James, welcome. There was a lot of speculation today about your hometown team maybe trading up to get you. Were you following that, and what was that? What was your day like?
Yeah, I mean, I stay away from all that stuff. I had no idea where I was going to end up. I'm so grateful that I'm ending up at Boston, that I'm a Bruin, and that I'm not leaving the Boston area. I wanted to go to college in Boston, and it just turned out that the Bruins picked me. So I'm super grateful that it worked out.
James, did you eventually get to talk to Bruins management? And if so, what did that conversation go like?
I just got off the phone with them. It was really good. Just really excited to get to training camp and to be able to see them in person.
Hey, James, congratulations on getting drafted. There's obviously a bunch of BC teammates of yours that have been drafted by the Bruins too, that you're playing with. What have they told you, if you've ever asked them, about what it's like to get drafted by the Bruins, be a prospect, go to development camp, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, they take it with a lot of pride. It's such an honor to be able to get drafted by an organization like this. You just have to be so grateful. Training camp, it's just making sure you're ready for it, making sure you're showing your best on the ice, and you're trying to make the team. So,
James, congratulations. For starters, what goes into your thought process about whether or not to go back to school, or whether or not to take the step forward?
yeah, it's a talk that sure I'll have with the staff when I see them. Good thing is it's right down the street from each other, so I'm glad it all worked out.
James, congratulations. For Bruins fans who haven't seen your game and what you bring on the ice, what is your skill set, and what can Bruins fans look forward to from seeing you in a couple of years?
Yeah, just excitement. A player that has a really good hockey IQ, loves to skate with the puck. This is an exciting player to watch, someone that'll put his heart and soul on the line, give it his all to the team.
James, a couple of questions. First of all, congrats. And obviously, when you were making the decision to go to Boston College, you had nothing in your head that this could happen. What was it about choosing Boston College and Boston? How much of what you knew about Boston factored into that decision back then?
Yeah, I mean, I loved the city. I just loved being in Boston. I grew up playing so many hockey tournaments in Boston, so I knew the area, knew it really well. I wanted to be on the East Coast, and I went to school at BC, and now I'm a Boston Bruin. So it's tough to, picture that before the draft. I'm super grateful it worked out, and that I'm in this spot now.
And we're expecting to see you at development camp on Monday. What do you think? How do you think it's going to feel that first few shifts or that whole experience?
Yeah, it'll feel good. We've skated at Warrior a bunch of times this year for practices, so it's not like it's going to be a new rink or anything. And I know a bunch of the prospects that will be there as well, so it'll be really nice.
Hey, James, congratulations. Were you surprised to not go in the top 5, or how did you kind of handle that? Was there any disappointment involved?
I wanted to be at a spot that I wanted to be the most, and I wanted to be at a good spot. I'm so lucky that I ended up being a Boston Bruin. It's the best spot in the world. It's a dream come true for me, and I know for my whole entire family. So I'm just so excited right now. I'm really excited to be able to say that I'm a Boston Bruin, and I take a lot of pride in that.
James, with the way you fell a little bit in the draft, do you think your season at BC was underappreciated? And is there all a chip on your shoulder to prove people wrong?
Yeah, I think next year you'll be able to hopefully see. I thought this year was really good. You just got to go out there next year and prove everyone that passed on you wrong. But hey, I'm in a spot where I want to be. I want to be a Boston Bruin, and I'm really excited to get things going. So,
James, congratulations. I know you said it's a conversation with management about when you make that jump, but having played with a couple of guys who did make the jump last year, how close do you think you are to being ready?
Yeah, I'm weighing around 190 now. So physically, I've been able to put on weight. Physically, been able to get in the gym and get ready. I want to play in the NHL as soon as possible. Whether that's a conversation with the team, whether you're doing that now or once the season's once the college season's over, that's a conversation we'd have to have.
Two questions, James. First of all, kind of a fun one. Adam Sandler selecting you. When you saw that, were you just like, what is happening? Is this real?
Yeah, I saw him pop up, and I remember looking at my mom, and I just had the biggest smile on my face because I loved Happy Gilmore. It was my favorite movie, so it was right away the coolest thing. And then, as he starts talking, you hope to hear that he's going to say Boston College, and he ended up saying Boston College, and I waited an extra second to hear my name and stood up. From there, it was just, it was nuts. I remember walking down the aisle, seeing him riding his golf club or whatever it was, like it was a horse, so that was pretty funny.
My other question is about your time at BC. When you've been there, you obviously have had a few other guys on your team that have been drafted really high in the first round. Were there any of those guys that you learned from? And what did you take away from that, as well as have any of those guys texted you to tell you congrats?
Yeah, I haven't been really able to look at my phone right now, so but I talked to Gabe, I talked to Ryan, I talked to Fowler, I talked to all those guys that were high picks almost every day. So they're a big step of this year. Just being by my side through it all, being able to talk to those guys, being able to see how they act, how they go about their day, how they, act as pros. So
Congratulations, James. You've had some excellent teammates at BC and an excellent team. Probably haven't achieved all you thought you could. Do you feel like there's unfinished business there? And what have you learned so far that you hope to take into the coming season with the Eagles to try to get over the top?
Win a national championship in a bean pot.
Yeah, that would be fun. One of the questions that he was asked was if he's ready to make the jump into the NHL, or I think it was like, are you going to continue the college route or go to the NHL? That's not his choice, everybody, okay? That is not up to him. I mean, it's up to him in a way that, like, if he prepares and shows up, in that way, that's in his control. But he doesn't go to Sweens or to, Greg Brown and say, like, hey, guys, sorry, I'm going to go to the NHL. That opportunity needs to come. There are a couple things that need to happen. Brick and Razor were on the desk on Saturday when we had our show. Size is one of them. Board, like what you normally see with every young player. It's like your strength along the board, strength on the puck, size, speed, maybe. He's got great hands is one of the reads on him. But you had a good point to how maybe this year's college experience might help him prepare for the NHL better. What's that about, Kasey?
What's that about?
Yeah.
Because another thing that was talked about is like some people kind of underestimating, where am I from today? Underestimating his ability to be the skilled player that's listed on his resume because he was playing next to Orion Leonard and Perreault. But I think that one more year in college will do tremendous things because as of August 1st, we get this merger where Canadian players can declare to play D1 hockey. And we've heard a number of those commits throughout the draft. And considering how many OHLers were picked up in the first and second round, considering how many Canadians were picked up in the first and second round, the big jump off from what we saw over the past two drafts where USHL guys were really kind of like the go-to to grab out of the draft and be more NHL ready. OHL players, CHL players, they're closer to being NHL ready, which is going to just level up the competition in college hockey this upcoming year. College hockey took another step this previous season, so I feel like Hagens would get a really great learning curve going against a different level of competition in a more intensified college market for hockey.
So you're saying because, which I totally agree with you, but just to like recap, because now Canadian players can go and play college and you have these different skill sets that are now all of a sudden competing for roster spots in colleges, the competition's just going to be better and you're going to be playing with like different athletes and different experiences. And that can help.
It's almost how we talk about in basketball, like guys that play overseas, you're playing against men, you're playing against more maturity. Like OHL just has a different degree to it. And a lot of these Canadian players have a different degree to their paths to getting over to, American leagues or the NHL as a whole. So I feel like it's going to help him a lot. And you want him to come in ready. We don't want him to be discouraged because there's just been so much conversation around development, especially when it comes to the Bruins. So one more year, I think it's going to do him justice. He gets to stay in that weight room. And I know you can't get reps outside of the NHL better than the NHL. I just think that the step that college hockey is taking is going to prepare him so much better. And then we're jokingly or not jokingly talking about him being a first-line center. So if you want him to step up there with Pasta and be able to clean up the plays that we saw him do so well, then like one more year at college with him being fed the puck, kind of being more of that goal scorer versus the puck distributor, I think would help a lot.
Yeah, no, obviously this year is going to be huge for him, and I love what you mentioned about Perreault and Leonard not being there anymore. So, you know, you get more of ice time, more spotlight, whatever it is.
More leadership.
And leadership, yeah, exactly. And we'll see what the Bruins what their needs are. Do they take a look at him? Could be a couple of years too. You never know. You don't necessarily want to wait that long when you're excited about this pick, but it could be a couple of years. All right, guys, we also got Ryan Nadeau, as in we, that would being our team, but Judd Surratt got Ryan Nadeau one-on-one after the draft just to pick his brain on the rest of the picks and the direction that the Boston Bruins went in. So let's play that for you.
Ryan, let's start here. Big picture. A lot of the picks that you made today, if you look at it in total, what do you feel like this group adds to the organization?
Well, I think first and foremost, we added a lot of high-end ability, a lot of offensive upside, some skill, some pace, just a few players that have some excitement with the puck.
The headliner obviously came on night one, and that's James Hagens. And if I had asked you back in January or what your reaction would be, you know, if James Hagens was going to be able to fall to you at 7, what would have been your reaction back then?
Well, I would have been really surprised. One, that you know, to be in a spot to pick James Hagens first, and then, you know, to have him available, a player with that much excitement with the puck, that much ability to dictate the game, that's just a real exciting pick for us.
Beyond some of the guys that, or beyond James Hagens, who was taken in the first round, who were you really excited was available to you when you started picking in the second round and beyond?
Well, I mean, certainly when we look at Will Moore and what he brings to the table, that's a player that for us, you know, we certainly had some very high ratings on him and think, you know, there's a lot of skill and ability that can really help, you know, augment our group. You know, and throughout it's a unique process in that as you watch it, like there was a point where, you know, there were a number of players right before even we picked Will Moore that there were a lot of players on the board, and you're like, wow, this is a good group. Like, just excitement to be able to be in a spot to make a pick there.
In the big picture, and you've been doing this for a while, just how vital is it to be able to find legitimate NHL players beyond the first round?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of focus goes into those first round and higher end picks, and rightfully so. But yeah, we've got to work really hard to find players throughout the draft that can add some value to the organization in terms of being able to impact at all different spots. You know, it's obviously a lot harder to find a top line or a top 6 or even a middle 6 or a top pair D type later in the draft, but there's a lot of value to being able to find players that can play for your NHL team or become an asset to play for someone else's team.
For the last couple of years, the GM Don Sweeey has mentioned, I really need to be able to give my amateur guys more picks, more swings. I haven't been able to do that because the team has used some of those assets to get others to help them at the NHL level. I guess with that in mind, because you had a lot of opportunities, how different was it for you and the staff this season for the draft?
Yeah, it was certainly unique on our end to be in a situation to make a lot of picks, particularly a high pick in, you know, the first round and have second round picks. Like it's, you know, it's kind of funny because I've been with the Bruins for a long time and been with Don Sweeey and Cam Neely for a long time, and he's typically apologizing to us for not having picks, but we obviously we're in this to win. So we love being in the playoffs and love chasing to get another cup. Like, so it's you get over the disappointment of, man, the season didn't really turn out the way we envisioned, but then you're quickly excited to say, hey, we can help be part of the process to restock this and get us back quickly in the right direction. So, you know, it's kind of bittersweet to look at it and say, you know, normally we don't have this amount of picks, And, but now Don comes to us and says, hey, we've got some capital. You guys got to do your stuff. So, certainly energize the group and really focused on how we can bring in some players that have an opportunity to make a big impact for the organization.
Ryan, last thing, and I really appreciate your time. Now that the draft has ended, how long does it take for you and your staff to be able to evaluate how successful this class is, and what do you use to judge those attributes?
Yeah, so we'll take some time to actually first go back and talk about and reflect on how the draft played out, the actual execution and process of moving around the board and exploring potential trades in different scenarios. Then we'll watch our guys at development camp, and that's just the first real step once you draft them. It takes almost draft classes up to 5 years to really have a good feel for where the whole class went, where we may have undervalued certain players, where we maybe overvalued others. So we'll continue that process. We always reflect and look at different ways that we can do things better. But we'll certainly spend some time sort of just decompressing for a bit, but then quickly into dev camp. We don't have a lot of time there. And then, we really go into and turn the clock pretty quickly on the next set of draft picks. So we'll start scouting as soon as next week. We'll have guys going to different events and starting to, really tie together next year's draft.
Ryan, thanks a ton.
All right, guys, this is from Connor Ryan, of course, sipping his Dunkin' in his profile picture. I loved asking him about that. Connor Ryan at development camp. Yours truly. I will be driving there after the show. But there he has it. James Hagens and William Moore are officially on the ice, and Cole Chandler. Poor Chandler didn't get the tweet in Connor Ryan's tweet. Cole Chandler also.
Your 133rd pick. Connor.
Yes, exactly, dude. Get on it. But yeah, they're at development camp. So guys, that's happening all week at Warrior Ice Arena from Monday to Thursday. Friday, of course, being the 4th. There will not be development camp, but we're going to get to know the players a whole lot more. Casey, really quick, because we got to send it to break. You wanted to give a little something
Shout
on
out
William
to
Moore?
William Moore. Everyone should be excited. 6'3", 181, another center, going to BC.
And
he kills it on the piano, which we love to see. They have so many studies about guys who take classical music as a whole and how that translates to their game strategy-wise, anticipation-wise. You want to see that from a hockey player, somebody who can anticipate their opponent, kind of manipulate them a little bit. I don't know. I love the idea of it. So.
Okay. Well, on a slower day in the middle of the summer when we don't have a lot to talk about, I'll let you talk about them for 20 minutes, okay? But right now...
You'll give me 20 minutes.
Right now, we
just need to find out his favorite song to play, honestly, and I'm fine.
I'll ask him that today.
Thank you.
Right now, we're going to send it to break, guys. We're going to talk about tampering, potential tampering news, not with the Boston Bruins, but with Mitch Marner and the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll break that down for you and talk about Brad Marchand as well on the other side. And welcome back to Hockey Hub, talking all things Bruins and around the league, because tomorrow free agency opens up, guys, so it's going to be busy. And we have our show at 8 o'clock live from the Nesson Studios. Don't miss that. We'll break everything down of what's happened up to date. But for now, Brad Marchand not re-signed anywhere, or that being the Florida Panthers. That's the only place he could, but not with the Florida Panthers. So what does that mean, Casey? The rumors are that Boston is still on the table and that Toronto is still on the table. We're going to read a tweet from Pierre Lebrun. As we wait to see Brad Marchand's decision with Florida, several teams, including Boston and Toronto, hope to talk to him come Tuesday when the market opens up. If he doesn't re-sign with the Cup champs, the Bruins would certainly be open to bringing him back. But again, perhaps. And I think that's how it ends. But again, perhaps. Yes, obviously, Don Sweeey is not talking to Brad Marchand right now because that would be called tampering, which we can talk about a little later. That might be happening with the Vegas Golden Knights. So he has to wait until tomorrow. Probably a little weird. Someone you could talk to anytime for 16 seasons, now off limits for a little bit.
Boundaries.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. Like, to me, the fact that he hasn't re-signed with the Florida Panthers yet after Sam Bennett did means that he probably does want to shop around. What's your whole take on this? I believe that there still is a chance for Brad Marchand to become a Boston Bruin again, but it's not going to be the deal that he was offered, if he were to come back, that is, that he was offered at the trade deadline. Obviously, his value's gone up, so it's got to be more. We'll see if the Bruins are willing to meet him there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you and I just had this whole conversation off camera. What's the baby come back to me pitch from the Boston Bruins to Brad Marchand. I think he doesn't come back.
Okay.
I that's just still where I'm leaning on that. Not because he doesn't want to be back in a Beast sweater, not because I don't think that they can offer him a little bit more, but just if we're sticking to where we think this roster is heading, and he's just coming off of winning another championship, I think that maybe he might want to go somewhere, polish off his career with, again, another deep run at least. Not to say that the Bruins aren't positioning themselves well, but I couldn't speak to it any further than, like, at this point, either stay in Florida if you can, have the opportunity to do another deep run, kind of coast out of your career, or come back. But it wouldn't be for as much as I would think that he would want.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if the Bruins can offer him as much as he would want. They obviously couldn't before. And now things, obviously are changing with the cap, which they knew was going up anyway. But point being, I don't know if it's going to be as much as the open market will give him, and Toronto being one of those teams that I definitely see being a possibility.
You do?
Yeah, I do. And it does suit his personality in the sense that not everyone fits in Toronto. I've already talked about it with the media. Brad can hold his own. Brad also, I'm not saying likes the attention. He doesn't need it, so I don't mean it in that way. But
he knows how to feed off.
Yeah, he knows how to feed. Exactly. He knows how to feed off of it. He doesn't mind it. He would be such a quotable guy there. He'd be bothered every single day to be in the media, but I think he can handle it. He can do it. He knows how to feed off of it. I think he'd make that locker room better, and I think they need that. I'm not saying that they have problems, but I think his leadership, his experience would really help the captain, Austin Matthews, be a better captain. He can learn from Marshy. There's so much that would fit with Toronto, and I want to throw up saying that. I really do. But we've got to talk
I love the Toronto reality from you, honestly.
It just makes me so sad. I'm here now, and this is where my loyalty
This is home.
This is home. And anyway, everyone knows my experience with Toronto over there. But yeah, I think that's a big possibility. I'm hoping, like I said, and then we can move on to some Vegas news, but I'm hoping that Brad Marchand won, and he feels like, okay, that was awesome. That was so fun. I'd love to do this in the next couple years. I know it's going to be not going to be next season, but in the next couple years, where it started, keep the kids in school. Like, I'm hoping that's what he wants. But again, if him and Katrina and the family decided, and the kids were like, hey, this was really fun, this like couple of months traveling to Florida and getting to know new teammates, this was really fun, we want to do it again. It depends what's calling. I don't think it's just a money decision. I don't
totally
think it's
agree.
just a money decision.
Yeah. Your adventure take on it is very real, and it hits home for a girl like me, military brat. So sometimes if you sell the adventure, then we're all on board.
Yeah, and then sometimes you're like, I just want my roots.
Exactly.
I just want to be back home.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he's feeling. We don't know. I could call him, but I don't have his number. So hopefully we'll be able to talk to him whenever that deal is made. Okay, so there's tampering news involving the reports, rather. It's not news. It's reports involving the Vegas Golden Knights and Mitch Marner and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mm-hmm. This is The Take. According to 32 Thoughts, Elliot Friedman's podcast, excellent podcast, that the Vegas Golden Knights have been talking to Mitch Marner before free agency. You're not supposed to do that until after July 1st. That's why that date is such a big deal. And because of that, the Leafs are trying to retaliate with some blackmail. Like, what the heck's going on, Casey?
I know. They're over here getting really reality TV on us. But apparently, at least what's being speculated is, like, all matters will be okay if there's a sign and trade option, which means two pretty key players for the Vegas Golden Knights have to go over to Toronto for Mitch Marner to become a Vegas Golden Knight. The only reason I hate the idea of that is because news just came out about Alex Pietrangelo having severe injuries that's probably going to keep him out for the rest or for the upcoming season. Your best defenseman, who you already struggled in laps of here and there, is potentially not going to be a part of your upcoming season. You got to get some other signings going. The whole finessing of your LTIR is going to be taken off the table with these new rules that went into play during the draft. So I just feel like things are getting a little too messy over there. Not to mention is that, like, to go from Toronto to the desert, I hate the idea of it.
You do, for Marner?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me why, though, because I think that would be great for him. We talked about
change of scenery.
Change of scenery, yes. And
I'm on board with that.
And just like a different market. Like, Vegas is a great place to play, but it's just such a different market than Toronto, and just like a fresh start. Why not the desert for Marner?
I just think that, I mean, very much it's very isolating out there in Vegas, and they love it. So they're a community, they're a family. You see how much the guys enjoy playing there. I just felt more of like a team, maybe it's stuck in my head because of Nate Thompson, but the LA Kings or Anaheim or actually Utah. I'd love to see Mitch Marner go to Utah and join the youth movement over there. I feel like if you're going to take him out of what he's been so comfortable doing, you don't want to put him in a position to have to be the loudest leader. And I feel like there's going to be some restructuring going on with Vegas and maybe even with the Kings. I think Utah, he just go there and fall in love with hockey again. That's what I want to see Mitch Marner do.
I mean, definitely. Like, he's been criticized so much, and like I think death threats or people stealing his car and stuff like that. Like it's just not easy. And we talked about where he played for the Knights, the London Knights, in the OHL. And so ever since he was like 15, 16, he's been like this, figure, the superstar spotlight. Yeah. So I agree. I think he needs to fall in love with hockey again, much like I did coming to Boston.
See, take a page out of your book.
Yeah, had a little sad breakup, and then fallen in love with hockey again. Let's show you. Really quickly, actually, I wanted to show you, sorry, Brendan, my producer's in my ear here. Yes, that's what I wanted to bring up, the potential tampering penalties. So if the league finds that Vegas has tampered, which apparently they're really looking for someone to become an example, I think they want to stop this because it's been happening. Up to a $5 million fine, termination of any contract signed. So that's the big one. Like the fine, whatever, the money for the player, who cares? But the termination of any contract signed. So if you do tamper, if they find that you have tampered, then whatever you had going is gone. So that's annoying. And then and also forfeiture. How do you say it? Forfeiture? Forfeiture.
Yeah, forfeiture of draft picks.
Forfeiting draft picks. So this
why
is
we had to
deal.
get medieval on that language we don't know.
Yes, this would be a big deal. We'll have to see what happens. And I think now that this is kind of in the rumor mill, maybe they're staying away from this deal.
Yeah.
Like that would kind of deter me. Like I don't want to give up any draft picks.
Yeah, there's been too much called to all of this going on. And then actually the other thing that you and I just talked about, Nicholas Hague, I believe, was a name talked about being in that package deal to go to Toronto as a key piece, and he just got traded to the Nashville Predators. So talk about a kink in plans potentially.
Okay. Well, we got to send it to break, guys. We're going to be back to wrap the show and maybe that thought right after this in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back and goodbye. No, pretty much. We've got like 45 seconds to talk here. Just wanted to remind everyone that the development camp is happening for the Boston Bruins as we speak. And Nesson, including myself, is going to be there all week. So Wednesday, we're going to have some updates on Wednesday's show. Casey, I'll ask about the piano stuff. We'll get some insights on these prospects for the Boston Bruins. And remember, tomorrow, guys, free agency opens up. And tomorrow at 8 o'clock on Nesson Nation, myself, Razor, and Brick, we're going to have a show recapping everything that the Bruins did. We've already seen some signings. We'll see what happens if we find out tomorrow to Brad Marchand. That's a big deal. And what's happening around the league. So tune in at 8 o'clock to Nesson Nation. Tune in Wednesday morning. Casey and I will be back with you. We'll see you then. Have a great couple days. Talk to you on Wednesday. Bye.